What's going on, boys? NealGuides here. Welcome back to another video. Now in today's video we're going to go with the 4-4-2 tactics and instructions. Just to make this clear, we're going to be focusing on the 4-4-2 wide as opposed, or so should I say one with sentiment as opposed to the one with the CDMs. So it is a bit more aggressive. I'm going to go through the tactics. I'm going to explain to you and how you can adjust it. Later on in the video I'm going to explain to you if you are losing with this formation, how to change it for your rank. Because if you're a Division 1 player and if you're a Division 5 player, it will be a bit different, but I'll explain that. So the first thing is defensive style. In my opinion, I mean this with all honesty, if you're a Division 2 player and above, you can use press after possession loss. You need to know how to defend to use this, because realistically people are just lobbing through balls in behind. And with this tactic, you're pressing all the time for 7 seconds after you lose the ball. Anyone who's decent at the game would realize, okay, you got press after possession loss on, and they're going to do an L1 trigger and do an L1 triangle or creative run or player lock, and they're going to get in behind. So you need to say to yourself, can you defend? Ask yourself that question right now. If you're watching this video and you know you can't defend that very well and you know you struggle, then you should be going to balance or pressure on heavy touch. Press after possession loss is only for those that really know how to defend. Most people I recommend pressure on heavy touch, because the good thing is you still press, but it's not all the time, and you press when there's a high percentage of winning the ball. So that way you don't just press aimlessly every single second, you basically press when there's a good chance you win the ball. So I'd recommend for most people, use pressure on heavy touch, and as you need to, you can activate the team press D-pad tactic, which basically turns into constant pressure. That is my best advice for every single person watching this video. Defensive width, we've increased this to 60. Now why? If you're losing and your opponent's going to be lobbing the ball from fullback to fullback, switching the ball from side to side, the more narrow you are, the harder it is to get the ball back. If you want to press, you want to be as wide as possible, covering up most of the pitch, and that's why you want a 60 width. Not too far away though, whereas you're too wide where you get played in behind, but 60 is a good width where you're wide enough to occupy spaces, and if you've got the ball, you're close enough to press. Don't forget, hug the sidelines is only when you have the ball in your possession, not when you're defending. So hug the sidelines only affects you offensively, not defensively, which is the most important. Don't forget, this is your defensive width when you don't have the ball and you're out of possession. Now the depth, now I've personally put this to 70. There is no auto offside feature this year. With the patch that's coming out, it may change. For example, how AI defense reacts around the midfield line, we don't know for sure. But that we'll only know when the patch really does come out. Realistically, 70 depth is good enough because you're high enough. Now, this is, in all honesty, you're going to realize, for those you in Division 2 and above, a lot of top tier players will know your two strikers, and then they will play the in between your midfield 4 and your two strikers. They're going to play in this red zone. So you're going to have to be smart enough to select one of your strikers and bring him back. So if you're playing on a higher division and your opponent is very astutely just deliberately holding the ball in this area to do a through ball down the wing and exploit you, then it's very important you right stick switch to your striker and you bring them back to press. Remember that. But the depth of 17 keeps you up high up the pitch. That way when your opponent's got the ball, if he's passing back to the goalkeeper, of course you can then fly forward and press. And with a high width, you're covering up as much of space as possible and you're going further back. Now, for the build-up play, I'd recommend just balanced. I think it works very, very well this year. If you are a Gold 3 player, I would say probably go towards a long ball, just because people struggle with the build-up phase and they like to do make players make runs in behind. And with long ball, you can abuse the L1 plus triangle meta, but also a lot of players in around the Gold 3 mark, they don't really use the L1 triggers to push a player going forward. So for example, when I've got the ball offensively, I would, for example, press the L1 button and my right mid will make a run going forward. If you're sitting here and thinking, A, I don't know how to do that, or B, I don't do that often, then I'll best recommend for you to use long ball. Otherwise, for everyone else, I would use balanced. Now for the chance creation, I put forward runs just because in the final third I want to be very attacking. Don't forget, we have one of the centre mids join the attack as well. So we have, a Bruno Fernandes type player here. Right now, pre-patch, the finesse shot meta is very effective to shoot outside the box. So as that person, you do lose him in midfield, but you bring him going forward. So that is why I have him on get forward. I don't like shooting outside the box. It's not part of my play style anyway. So I have forward runs and I want people to be getting runs in behind, especially those left mids and right mids and the left backs and right backs if you put them on overlap. Now, for the offensive width, I put this on 45. Now, I don't like my 4-4-2 too wide. That's just my preference. The reason why is if they're too wide, These guys are too far away, and I feel like hug the sidelines can do that anyway in the game. So why not just start narrow, and if you need to go wide, just use the hug the sidelines D-pad tactic in game. So you don't really need to, when you can activate the D-pad tactics up and right to activate hug the sidelines to make the formation wider anyway. So there's no point of being too wide in the first place. A lot of people always forget that. Remember, you can always turn on hug the sidelines. You want to make any formation wider. Just the way in contrast, if you want to make it more defensive and more narrow on the width, you can turn on overload the ball side. Corners and free kicks, I normally just put them on 3 and 1 just because I normally pass most of my free kicks anyway. So it doesn't really matter too much, but it obviously, of course, do bear in mind the counter attack. Now, going over to the instructions, both strikers on stay central, get it behind, and come back in offense. Aggressive interception is not really going to make that much of a difference. You want to use it, you can, but I find that your strikers just run out of energy too quickly. Comeback and offense is important because remember I said to you is your opponent will play in between the lines. When you're pressing, you kind of want everyone behind the ball. That way you can press together in a unit. If you're only pressing with just your 2 strikers, then these guys and these guys are going to be like, okay, you need to manually select them. Then your center mids are going to be exploited. So a high level player will understand, for example, that you can do this manually. But most of you guys won't be right stick switching or teammate containing on a very high level. So leave these guys and come back in offense. It's better to have them behind the ball as opposed to being in front. Because if they're in front, you have to right stick switch to them and then bring them back manually to press and use teammate contain to switch between them. The left mid and right mid, we have both of them on comeback and offense, get it behind. If you want to, you can put get inside the box for a cross. That way, if you get the ball on this angle and you make a cross in, the other person will come on the opposite side. That is completely up to you. Comeback and offense is important here, not stay forward. Because don't forget, if you have 4 players on stay forward, you're going to have 4 players like this. And you have 2 centre mids here. Any even Division 5 player will be smart enough to see that on a screen and will play in between your players. Then you're going to be really, really caught. So you don't want to keep this to the extreme. And don't forget, you can always tinker it if you want to. 1 CDMs on stay back while attacking cover center. Ideally, your most defensive CDM should be on stay back while attacking and cover center. And of course, you can put the edge of the box as well if you don't want them to go inside. And then for the most offensive one, you can either leave this on balance, stay back, or stay forward. Because I'm quite good at defending and I trust myself, I put this player on get forward. If you know you are struggling, then put this on balanced. Both centre backs on stay back while attacking. No conservative, no aggressive, don't touch those. Left back and right back, stay back while attacking, overlap. If you want to, you can always send these guys going forward. Remember, don't forget you can use attacking tactics, D-pad tactics, 4 backs join the attack or attacking 4 backs. And that way they'll overlap and that way you push these players inwards. Because don't forget, you don't want, for example, these guys going inside and pushing your wingers out wide. Wingers are the ones that can shoot better than your 4 backs. So you want your 4 backs overlapping, of course. You can try this step up feature. Again, I would say only Division 2 and above. Just because you need to know when to run back and when to run forward. Too many players, opponents will start doing 3 balls in behind. A lot of players will sit there and be like, and not switch to this guy, and then it'll step up and then you'll get caught in behind. And when I say this, I mean this with all honesty. I have to be very candid because a lot of people, especially new viewers, they come to my tactics and they try it for 1 game and they start crying because they lose 2 games in a row. Well, obviously it depends on your level. And it's the same with the 3-5-2. With the 3-5-2, it takes some time to adjust, but it really does work. The problem is that people don't give the game a chance. And if you lose with this formation 1 game and you get frustrated, you're going to concede. If you give any top tier player any formation, they can play regardless. Don't forget, these formations are made for players that are between the Division 3 and the Division 1 rank that want to move up. The Division 10 players, they can still use them. It's completely fine. But the Division 5 to Division 1, they can adjust it. So if you know you're in Division 3 and you know you can't use press after possession loss because it's too much, then just put this on pressure on heavy touch. Feel free to change and tinker. I create the template that's for everyone, okay? Then you use it for 10 games. Most of the time you don't have to change it. Unless I say don't change it. Most people don't change it. But if you feel like you can be more aggressive or you know what, you can have more of a width, then feel free to change that. Anyway guys, thanks for watching. Take it easy and I'll catch you next time. Peace out.